When someone close to you is being used as a vessel for darkness, the first and most dangerous sign is not always visible in their actions. It is felt deep within you. It's not simply about them taking your time. Time can be spent and time can be restored. What they take is much more valuable, your spirit. And once that begins to weaken, every other part of your life begins to suffer. Think of your spirit as the fire that drives everything you do. Your determination, your hope, your will to push forward when the world feels heavy. Now imagine that every encounter with a certain person feels like a cold wind blowing against that fire. They don't just keep you busy, they keep you empty. They might speak words that sound ordinary, but beneath the surface, those words carry a subtle poison, doubt, criticism, and energy that presses down instead of lifting up. It's not always direct negativity. Sometimes it's hidden behind constant complaints, endless drama, or an attitude that subtly makes you feel guilty for wanting more in life. You might notice that before meeting them, you were feeling fine, even motivated. But the moment you leave their presence, you feel mentally heavy, emotionally drained, and strangely unmotivated to do anything productive. This is no accident. It is what happens when your inner energy is being consumed. The danger is that this draining can be so gradual. You start to believe that this heaviness is simply part of life. You tell yourself, "I'm just tired," or "It's been a long day," when in reality, the fatigue is not from work or effort. It's from exposure to someone whose presence pulls life out of you. This is how the influence of darkness works. It doesn't just attack you head on, it slowly weakens you until you have no fight left. You may even notice that your creativity drops, your sense of joy fades, and your dreams start to feel distant. This is because your spirit, the source of vision and strength, is not being fueled. In fact, it's being depleted every time you allow yourself to be in the same emotional space as this person. And because this person is close to you, you might excuse it, telling yourself, "They don't mean it," or "It's just their personality." But understand, intention doesn't matter here. If they are being used to pull you down, the damage to your spirit is real. Here is a simple truth: people who uplift you will leave you feeling more alive, more certain, more ready to take action. People who drain you will leave you questioning yourself, doubting your abilities, and feeling too tired to keep moving. Your spirit knows the difference even before your mind admits it. That gut feeling you get when you dread seeing someone, or when you feel like you need to recover after spending time with them. That is your inner warning system telling you something is wrong. The real danger is not that they take your energy in one encounter. It's that they make this depletion a regular part of your life. Every day you spend around them without protecting yourself is another day your spirit's fire burns smaller. And the smaller that flame becomes, the easier it is for darkness to convince you that giving up is easier than fighting forward. Let me give you a short example. Imagine a man named Arif who had a deep dream of starting his own small business. Every time he met his friend Salman, instead of encouragement, he received remarks like, "Business, it's risky. Most people fail," or "You don't really have the skills for that, you should stick to your job." Salman never shouted, never insulted directly, but over time, those comments began to settle in Arif's mind. Slowly Arif started delaying his plans, doubting himself more and more. After a year, the dream was gone, not because Arif didn't have the ability, but because the fire that fueled that dream was smothered, piece by piece, by someone he trusted. That's the essence of a spirit drainer. They take the drive from you without you even realizing it's gone. And once your inner fuel is low, you become easier to control, easier to manipulate, and easier to keep in a place where you're not growing. This is why you must be aware. Protecting yourself from this kind of person doesn't mean you have to hate them or fight them. It means recognizing that your spirit is the most valuable thing you have, and anything, or anyone, that regularly weakens it must be held at a distance. You can still care for them without letting them constantly sit in your emotional space. You can still love them without allowing their words to shape your reality. Remember this: the people who truly belong in your life will leave you more alive than they found you. They will push you toward your potential, not pull you back to your past. They will give energy to your fire, not blow it out with cold winds. And if you find that someone is always leaving you emptier than before, you must be brave enough to protect your light, even if it means stepping back from someone you thought you could never lose. So it hits harder in a motivational video performance. That would make it sound far more cinematic and impactful. One of the most dangerous weapons darkness uses through people close to you is not anger, not open hostility, but the subtle art of twisting the truth. Truth on its own is pure, clear, and empowering. But when a person under the influence of a darker force gets hold of it, they bend it just enough to change its meaning. They take a fact, a memory, or a situation and wrap it in half-truths, emotional pressure, and selective storytelling until the reality no longer serves you. It serves them. The reason this tactic is so powerful is because it's hard to argue with something that contains a piece of truth. If they lied completely, you would recognize it instantly. But when they insert just enough truth to make it believable, you begin to second-guess yourself. You think, maybe they're right, even when something deep inside you knows they're not. This is where control begins. Not by force, but by confusion. When someone twists the truth, their goal is not to help you understand a situation. Their goal is to steer your perception. They want you to see events, people, and even yourself in a way that benefits them. This could be to keep you dependent on them, to stop you from trusting someone else, or to make you feel guilty so you'll do what they want. The danger is that, over time, these small distortions accumulate, and you begin to live in a reality that isn't truly yours. It's theirs. They might recall a past event, but omit their part in it, making themselves the victim and you the one at fault. They might tell you what someone else said about you, but change the tone or wording so it sounds worse than it was. They might take your own words and replay them in a way that makes you seem unreasonable. In each case, they are building a version of the truth where you are left feeling wrong, weak, or in debt to them. What makes this especially harmful is that it can happen so quietly. You may leave the conversation not even realizing you were manipulated. You might just feel guilty, apologetic, or suspicious of someone you used to trust. And because this person is close to you, you're more likely to believe them than to question them. This is exactly what the darkness wants: influence without resistance. A twisted truth also has the power to isolate you. If they can make you doubt your own memory or judgment, you'll start to rely more on their version of events. They position themselves as the one who understands the truth, and you as someone who gets it wrong. This dependency gives them control over how you think, how you feel, and what choices you make. Over time, if you are not aware of this pattern, you may find yourself giving up your own perspective entirely. You stop trusting your instincts and start filtering everything through them. This is spiritual suffocation, when your own inner voice is drowned out by someone else's distorted reality. Here's an example. Imagine a young woman named Sana. She has a close friend, Hira, who often complains about another mutual friend, Zara. One day, Sana hears from Zara that she never meant any harm in a disagreement they had weeks ago. But when Sana talks to Hira about it, Hira says, "Oh, Zara told me the same thing, but she also said you were overreacting and being dramatic." The truth: Zara never said that. But by adding those extra words, just a small twist, Hira plants a seed of doubt in Sana's mind. Now Sana starts questioning whether Zara truly respects her. She feels hurt, even betrayed. Over months, Hira continues to clarify situations in a similar way. Slowly, Sana's trust in Zara fades and her trust in Hira grows stronger, because Hira is always the one helping her see the truth. In reality, Hira has been twisting the truth all along to isolate Sana and make herself the center of Sana's loyalty. Sana didn't lose Zara because of what Zara did. She lost her because she let someone else control the narrative. That is the danger of twisted truth. It breaks relationships, weakens your trust in yourself, and makes you easier to control. And because it's done subtly, it's easy to overlook until the damage is already done. To protect yourself, you must learn to pause before accepting anyone's version of events, even from someone you love. Ask yourself, does this match my own experience? Is there another side to this? Could something be missing here? And most importantly, Learn to trust your instincts. If something feels off in their tone, their choice of words, or the timing of their truth, it may be because what they're telling you is not the whole picture. The enemy does not always shout lies. Sometimes it whispers partial truths. Sometimes it gives you 90% reality and 10% poison, just enough to make the whole thing dangerous. Your job is to see past the bending of facts, to stand firmly in what you know to be true, and to guard your perception, like you would guard your life. Because your life will always follow the direction of what you believe to be true. You cannot stop people from twisting the truth, but you can refuse to be shaped by their distortions. You can keep your spirit sharp, your mind clear, and your awareness strong. And when you do, no matter how close the person is to you, no matter how convincingly they speak, the truth will remain yours, untwisted, unbroken, and undefeated. One of the most subtle but destructive ways darkness works through someone close to you is by keeping you chained to your past. The past is a place of lessons, not a place to live. Yet when the wrong influence is at work, it becomes a prison. These people don't have to physically stop you from moving forward. All they have to do is keep reminding you of who you were, what you did wrong, and every mistake you've ever made, until you start to believe you will never be more than that. They will bring up old failures in moments when you are trying to rise. You tell them about a new opportunity you're chasing, and instead of encouragement, you hear, "Remember last time you tried something like this? You failed." You tell them about your plans to change, and they remind you of every time you promised to change before, but didn't follow through. They keep your past alive because they know that if you keep looking backward, you cannot see the road ahead. This tactic works because the past is emotional. It carries shame, regret, and pain, and those are heavy emotions. When someone repeatedly forces you to carry that weight, your energy for the present and the future is drained. Even if you've forgiven yourself, they will dig it up again, sometimes in subtle ways, other times with open criticism. They will disguise it as helpful advice or concern, when in truth it's an anchor tied to your feet. The real danger is not that they bring up the past once or twice. It's that they make it part of how they define you. In their eyes, you are not the person you are becoming. You are the person you were when you failed, when you were at your weakest, when you were still learning. And the more you hear it, the more you start to wear that identity yourself. Without realizing it, you begin to think, maybe this is just who I am. And that thought alone can stop you from ever stepping into your potential. Sometimes this happens because the person fears your growth. If you move forward, you will no longer need them, or you will outgrow them, and that threatens their control over you. By keeping you stuck in the story of your mistakes, they ensure you never rise high enough to leave them behind. Other times, it's not even personal. They are simply under the influence of something dark that does not want anyone to break free, because freedom inspires others, and darkness fears the chain reaction. You must understand, your past is not your prison unless you hand the keys to someone else. The past was never meant to be a life sentence. It was meant to be a lesson. The right people will help you learn from it and move forward. The wrong people will keep replaying it, so you never move forward at all. Here's an example. Imagine a man named Bilo who once struggled with addiction in his early 20s. It took years of hard work, discipline, and faith for him to turn his life around. Now in his 30s, he's sober, running a small business, and trying to inspire others who face the same struggle. But every time he visits his cousin Faraz, he hears comments like, "Remember when you used to get drunk at every wedding?" Or, "We all know how you used to mess things up. Don't act like you're so different now." Faraz says it with a laugh, pretending it's just teasing. But the effect is deep. Each time Bilo hears those words, a small part of his old shame rises again. He starts thinking about the times he failed, the opportunities he lost, the people he hurt. Slowly, that pride he had in his progress begins to fade, replaced by doubt. He wonders if people will ever see him for who he is now, or if he will always be the man he once was in their eyes. If Bilo isn't careful, he will start living under that label again, even though he's long outgrown it. This is why awareness is so important. If someone keeps dragging you back into memories you've already healed from, you must recognize it for what it is: an attempt, whether conscious or not, to keep you from stepping fully into the present. If you allow their voice to be louder than your own, you will keep fighting battles you've already won. The way to break this chain is to stand firm in your new identity. When they bring up the old you, remind yourself, and if necessary, remind them, that you are not the same. You are not who you were last year, last month, or even yesterday. Growth is constant, and you have every right to live in your present and move toward your future without being pulled back by someone else's memory of your past. The past is a teacher, not a master. You can learn from it, but you do not have to obey it. You are allowed to rewrite your story at any time, and no one has the right to keep reading you the same chapter when you've moved on to a new one. Darkness knows that if it can keep you looking backward, it can stop you from creating anything new. Your power comes from refusing to let those old chapters define you. If someone close to you keeps holding you there, you must be brave enough to protect your present. Sometimes that means setting boundaries in conversations. Sometimes it means limiting your time with them, and sometimes it means walking away entirely if they refuse to see you for who you are now. You are not here to relive yesterday. You are here to create tomorrow, and no matter how much they try to pull you back into the past, you have the right and the strength to keep moving forward. One of the clearest signs that darkness is working through someone close to you is when they consistently feed your weaknesses instead of your strengths. A true ally sees the greatness in you, even when you can't see it yourself, and they push you toward it. But when a person encourages the very habits, thoughts, and behaviors that keep you small, they are not supporting you. They are slowly disarming you. And the most dangerous part is that they often disguise this as care, comfort, or accepting you as you are. A weakness is not the same as vulnerability. Vulnerability can be a strength when shared with people who uplift you. Weakness, in this context, is the part of you that sabotages your progress, your laziness, your fear, your self-pity, your destructive habits. When someone feeds those parts, they are not helping you heal, they are helping you stay exactly where you are, because a stronger version of you would no longer be easy to influence. They might do this by making excuses for you. You've had a long week, you deserve to relax, even though relaxing is the exact opposite of what you need if you're trying to build momentum. They might say, "Don't be so hard on yourself. You're fine the way you are," when deep down you know you're not living up to your potential. They might encourage you to indulge in habits you've been trying to break, like overeating, overspending, or procrastinating. And each time you listen, you take another step away from the version of yourself you could be. The strategy works because it feels good in the moment. It's easy to accept comfort and avoid challenge. It's easier to stay in the familiar than to push into the unknown, and that's exactly why darkness uses it. Because long-term growth almost always feels uncomfortable in the short term. If the wrong influence can keep you chasing short-term ease, you'll never endure the discomfort necessary for long-term change. Over time, this kind of influence erodes your discipline. You stop holding yourself accountable because you've surrounded yourself with people who never hold you accountable either. You start believing that it's normal to avoid hard work, that it's acceptable to keep repeating old patterns, and that good enough is as good as you'll ever get. This is the slow death of ambition. When someone feeds your weakness, they're not always doing it out of malice. Sometimes they are feeding it because it benefits them to have you stay the same. If you grow stronger, you may outgrow them. If you build discipline, you might stop tolerating their lack of it. Sometimes they feed your weakness because they share the same weakness and feel less guilty about their own habits when you join them. Misery loves company, but so does mediocrity. The danger is that you may think this is love. You may think, they accept me no matter what. But acceptance without challenge is not love. It's comfort at the expense of growth. Real love sees your potential and refuses to let you stay small. Real love tells you when you're slipping, not so they can control you, but so you can rise. Let me give you an example. Imagine a woman named Amina who wants to lose weight and live a healthier life. She has a close friend, Sana, who always invites her out for late-night fast food. Amina tells her she's trying to eat better, but Sana laughs it off and says, "Come on, you've worked hard, you deserve a cheat day, or 10. At first Amina enjoys the comfort. It feels like Sana is being supportive, letting her live without pressure. But weeks turn into months, and Amina realizes she's further away from her goals than when she started. Sana never openly told Amina to quit her goals, but by constantly inviting her to indulge and normalizing habits that keep her from progressing, she kept Amina exactly where she was. The impact was the same as direct sabotage, just softer, slower, and wrapped in friendship. This is how weakness feeding works. It doesn't stop you with a wall. It stops you with a couch. It doesn't chain you with force. It chains you with comfort. And before you know it, years can pass without you ever taking a step toward your potential. To protect yourself, you must become fiercely aware of who encourages your strength and who feeds your weakness. Ask yourself after spending time with someone, do I leave them feeling motivated, disciplined, and ready to act? Or do I leave feeling lazy, distracted, and comfortable in my excuses? That answer will tell you more than their words ever could. If you find someone is always feeding the parts of you that keep you small, you have a choice. You can either let them keep you where you are, or you can create space, set boundaries, and surround yourself with people who challenge you to be better. It won't always feel pleasant, but growth rarely does. Remember, you are either building your strength or feeding your weakness, and the people closest to you are either helping one or the other. Choose wisely, because the version of you that you become tomorrow will be shaped by what is being fed today. Peace is not just the absence of noise. It is the presence of inner stability, the stillness of your mind, and the quiet strength of your heart. It is the space where your thoughts are clear, your emotions are steady, and your decisions are not clouded by chaos. When someone close to you disrupts that peace, they are not just creating a momentary disturbance, they are shaking the very foundation of your well-being. This disruption is one of the clearest signs that a darker influence is moving through them, because peace is a threat to darkness. Where there is peace, there is clarity, and where there is clarity, there is power. If your mind is calm, you can see through lies, manipulation, and fear. But if someone can disturb your peace, they can weaken your clarity. And once clarity is gone, control becomes easier. The disruption might be loud, constant arguments, raised voices, drama over small matters, but it can also be quiet. It might be subtle digs, backhanded compliments, or emotional games that keep you on edge without you even realizing why you feel so tense. Sometimes, the disruption doesn't happen during the interaction itself. It's what you feel after. You leave their presence and realize your mind is restless, replaying the conversation, defending yourself in your head, feeling a strange unease that lingers long after they're gone. People who disrupt your peace don't need to physically harm you to damage you. They chip away at your mental and emotional stability, making it harder for you to focus, to trust yourself, and to act with confidence. They might constantly bring up stressful topics, create unnecessary conflicts, or inject doubt into situations where you once felt secure. Even when life is going well, they find a way to stir the waters so you can never fully relax. One reason this tactic is so effective is because it divides your attention. When your peace is broken, part of your mind is always dealing with the disturbance, leaving less energy for pursuing your goals, nurturing your relationships, or simply enjoying your life. This constant low-level stress can become normal if you're not careful. You might even mistake it for your own anxiety, not realizing that it's being fed and maintained by the influence of someone close to you. Sometimes the disruption is strategic, whether the person is aware of it or not. By keeping you in a state of emotional imbalance, they can control when you feel safe, when you feel guilty, and when you feel desperate for their approval. In this way, they become the source of both the problem and the relief, creating the storm and then offering to be your shelter. But that shelter is temporary, because the cycle always repeats. It's important to recognize that peace disruptors don't always appear hostile. Some might use humor to mask their criticism, so you feel you can't take offense. Others might claim they are just being honest, or only trying to help, but somehow their honesty always leaves you unsettled instead of uplifted. Over time, you might even start to anticipate the disruption, feeling anxious before you see them, because your body already knows what's coming. Here's a short example. Imagine a man named Hamza, who is working hard to save money for a down payment on a house. He's proud of his progress and feels a sense of calm knowing he's on track to achieve his goal. His brother-in-law Imran visits often. Each time they talk, Imran makes comments like, "Are you sure you can afford a house? The market's unpredictable. You might lose everything if prices drop." Or, "Why are you stressing yourself so much? Just enjoy life. Spend the money, you can always rent." At first, Hamza laughs it off, but the seeds of doubt have been planted. That night, he finds himself lying awake, worrying about whether he's making a mistake. The calm he had about his plan is replaced with anxiety, and the peace that motivated him to stay disciplined is gone. Imran didn't yell at him or insult him, but he disrupted Hamza's peace enough to shake his focus. And if this continues long enough, Hamza might eventually abandon his goal, not because he couldn't achieve it, but because he lost the inner calm required to stay the course. This is the danger. Once your peace is gone, you are easier to distract, easier to manipulate, and easier to steer away from your purpose. That is why protecting your peace is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Without peace, your decisions become reactive instead of intentional. Without peace, you become a passenger in your own life, responding to the turbulence around you, instead of steering toward where you want to go. To guard against peace disruptors, you must first notice how you feel after interacting with someone. Do you feel steady, encouraged, and clear-minded? Or do you feel tense, defensive, and unsettled? That emotional aftermath is the clearest signal of whether someone is contributing to your peace or stealing it. Once you identify the disruptors, you have to create boundaries. This could mean limiting the time you spend with them, refusing to engage in certain topics, or mentally detaching from their emotional games. In some cases, it might mean removing them from your life entirely if the disruption is constant and damaging. Peace is power. It gives you the mental space to dream, the emotional stability to act, and the spiritual grounding to resist manipulation. People who truly care for you will protect it. People under the influence of something dark will disturb it, and you must decide which voices and presences you allow to shape the atmosphere of your mind. Never forget the calm inside you is more valuable than the chaos around you. Guard it fiercely, because once peace is gone, everything else becomes harder. But when peace is strong, no amount of disruption can shake your path. One of the most undeniable signs that darkness is moving through someone close to you is when they resist your growth. Growth means change, and change means you will no longer fit into the same box they have always kept you in. For someone who benefits from your limitations, your transformation is a threat. They know that a stronger, wiser, more disciplined version of you might no longer tolerate the things you once accepted. You might no longer depend on them. You might rise to a place where they cannot reach you. And so, consciously or unconsciously, they fight against it. Resistance to your growth does not always appear as open sabotage. Sometimes it's hidden in subtle discouragement, constant doubts, or even mockery disguised as humor. You tell them about a new skill you're learning, and they respond with, "Why bother? It's not like you'll use it." You start a healthier lifestyle, and they joke, "Look at you acting all perfect now." You begin working toward a goal, and they say, "You're wasting your time, that's too hard." The message behind these words is clear. Stay where you are. Don't change. Don't grow. The most dangerous part is that this resistance can be wrapped in care. They might say, "I just don't want you to get hurt." Or, "I'm only saying this because I care about you." But the effect is the same. Their words push you back toward the familiar, toward comfort, toward the smaller version of yourself. Real care supports your potential, even if the path is difficult. Resistance dressed as care is still resistance. Sometimes they resist because your growth forces them to face their own lack of progress. If you rise, they must confront the fact that they stayed still. That can stir feelings of jealousy, insecurity, or fear of being left behind. Instead of using your progress as inspiration, they try to pull you back down so they can feel comfortable again. And if they are under a darker influence, that pull will be constant, subtle, and persistent. The danger of staying around people who resist your growth is that over time, you start to believe them. You begin to think your dreams are unrealistic, your goals are unnecessary, or that wanting more for yourself is selfish. Your progress slows, then stops, and eventually, you find yourself in the exact same place you were years ago. Not because you lacked the ability, but because you allowed their resistance to become your own. Here's an example. Imagine a young man named Fahad who works a regular office job, but has a passion for photography. He starts taking classes, saving money for better equipment, and building a small portfolio. He shares his dream of becoming a professional photographer with his childhood friend Adil. Instead of supporting him, Adil laughs and says, "Photography? Bro, that's just a hobby. Do you really think you can make money off that? You're going to waste years and end up right back at this job." At first, Fahad ignores it, but each time they meet, Adil throws in similar comments. "You're missing out on fun to take pictures. Why are you working so hard on something that might fail?" Eventually, those words start to sink in. Fahad begins to doubt himself. He slows down his efforts, skips classes, and puts off buying the equipment he needs. Months later, his dream is cold, not because he lacked talent or opportunity, but because someone close to him resisted his growth, until he resisted it himself. This is the true danger. When their voice becomes your inner voice. Once you start repeating their doubts inside your own head, the battle is no longer outside, it's inside you. That is why awareness is so important. You have to recognize when resistance is coming from someone else and refuse to let it become part of your own thinking. To protect your growth, you must be intentional about the voices you allow into your life. Surround yourself with people who push you forward, who challenge you to rise higher, who remind you of your potential when you forget it yourself. Growth is already difficult. The path is filled with obstacles, failures, and moments of uncertainty. The last thing you need is someone close to you adding weight to the climb. If you sense resistance from someone, you don't always have to cut them off completely, but you must create boundaries around what you share and how much influence they have over your decisions. Some people cannot be trusted with your dreams because they will crush them before they can grow. Remember this, those who truly love you will celebrate your progress, even if it changes the relationship. They will push you to keep going, even if it means they must face their own fears. They will not try to keep you small just to make themselves comfortable. Growth is the essence of life. Every day you are either moving forward or falling backward. If someone is standing in your way, constantly pulling you toward who you used to be instead of supporting who you are becoming, you must have the courage to keep moving forward without their approval. Because in the end, the only thing worse than losing a relationship is losing yourself. And no dream, no goal, no transformation is worth abandoning just to keep someone else comfortable with your smallness. If they resist your growth, let them. But never let them stop you.